Hey everybody, I'm Zee Garcia. You know, Modern Art is an auction classic from Dr. Reiner Knizia from the early 90s. It's a very well-known game by designer Reiner Knizia, and it is a game that a lot of people adore. But recently, it would seem that the good doctor perhaps got the rights to the game back, and several companies out there all across the world went ahead and printed a copy of Modern Art. The one, if you are in the US, the one you are likely to be familiar with is one that Cool Mini or Not, CMON Limited, put out not too long ago. With its own look, its own vibe, but the exact same game as you would be familiar with if you knew any of the other ones. Well, here in front of me I have two other versions of the same game. And the very first striking thing is, of course, the size difference of these. This one is from Oink Games, and they specialize in making rather small games just like this one. They have their own unique look and very striking design as well. This one over here is from a company called Dice Tree Games, which I believe is Korean, and they've done a very lavish production of the game. Very large box, very historically rich, a lot of attention to detail in this one as well. And so I'm going to just be comparing these two because we've reviewed Modern Art. In fact, you probably are familiar with Modern Art, have possibly even played one of the many versions out there throughout the years. So instead of reviewing these separately, I'm just going to show them both to you. I'm going to tell you sort of what I think about the differences, so you can make an informed decision if you decide to pick up one of these two. You know, if you don't know how to play Modern Art, definitely go check out one of our reviews for that, so that you are familiar with a little bit of what I'll be talking about. But then come on back and check these out. Okay, so here we go. The first thing we'll take a look at here is the size of the boxes themselves. As you can see, this one is quite a large box, and this could technically fit in your pocket if you have quite a large pocket, but it is considerably smaller than the other version, and I definitely want you to keep that in mind as I show you comparisons of the different components that come in both, because on a straight one-to-one component basis, this box here will clearly blow away the smaller one, but it is a much larger box. All right, so there are your covers. Here are the boards used to keep track of the rounds, as well as the values assigned to each painter as a value of their painters. A number of their paintings are sold. So we have our 30s, our 20s, and our 10s here. So if this is, let's say, first, most sold there, then we have that one and that one. That's what that would look like after the first round. And over here, it might look something like this, all right? So let's say that. There you go. So that's what those look like. Again, much larger board over here. A lot more going on also. A lot busier looking board. I think in this case, I do prefer the way this board looks. It's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to read. I like that the 10s, 20s, and 30s are different graphically, whereas these are identical. And I'm glad these are identical because it would be way too busy if they added some graphics to that as well. But I have to say, I do like the smaller one in this case. They serve a very simple function, and they really don't need to be this large or that flashy. So I'm happy with the smaller one here. Here are the screens used by the different players to hide their money and so on, and I have to say I have pros and cons here for both. I certainly like the look of these, and they are larger, so they serve as a screen, their intended purpose, a little bit better, as well as being different. They are all different, whereas these just have a color change, and they tell you a city down here, like Paris, London, Berlin, that you're supposed to be representing as a purchasing power. Over here, you have the a building represented, and so as you can see, your board is going to look a lot flashier than the other players' boards in this game, and a lot flashier than the ones included in this one. However, one thing I don't like about the nicer, larger version here is they are blank on the other side, whereas these include a player guide back here. Now, that function is served in the other game by giving you a player aid sheet that looks like this. So that's fine. You still have this information in front of you, But I do like that these have it on the back. Even if they wanted to include these, the completely blank back of these is wasted space. And so I like that they included it. Now this is in German because this version I have here printed these in German, and the rules are in German. But I wish that I could have these screens with that information, this information right back here. A minor nitpick, but I do want to point out the differences there. Still, for me, I do prefer the larger ones. They just look a little bit better, and ultimately what they're intended to do, they do better. Each version of the game went through the trouble of including an easel, and so there you go. So you can display the artwork that is up for auction. And interestingly, the cards in the smaller version are actually larger than the ones in the more grandiose version over here. And so the idea would be that you just go ahead and do that, and then you auction off the cards, right? And once someone wins it and they can take it, they can put it in front of themselves, and the next player would auction one off. And then so you have a bit of a sample of the artwork here. I'll show you some more of it in just a second. And then the backs of the cards themselves, and I certainly like, as far as the backs go, I do like the this version, the larger version, a little bit better. It's just, this looks like a pretty standard, no thought went into it sort of card back. I'm not a big fan of it, but the front and where the information is displayed and sort of the iconography rather, the way it's all laid out, I do like these. I like the Oink version quite a bit, the way it looks, except for the back again, and the larger format card there. So having the fact that they both included the easel and that these cards are nicer, in my opinion, larger, well done. They also have a very nice finish. They both do, really. I'm going to have to give the nod here to the Oink version in this case. So here's another sample of some of the cards as we have the Oink version over here. And as I said, I like these cards better, and I also like the artwork in them a little bit better. Now this is a little more traditional, right? It's perhaps a little richer in the representation of the history and the artists that they went ahead and picked. But it does make the artwork look a little samey-er. You know, everything sort of has a very similar palette. Everything feels very similar to me, and the diversity doesn't really come across as strongly as when I look over here. And the brightness, the colors here, it's just a very attractive look to the whole thing. I will mention, though, that these cards on this side and this version of the game does include two full sets of the 70 cards that you use to play the games. You've got these cards, and then you've got these cards here with a different back that are different artists as well, and these are in the Korean. So you would use this set if you were a Korean speaker and were playing with Korean speakers. So you would use these cards instead. Very interesting that they went ahead and did that, as opposed to have a single set of cards and simply have English and Korean on there if they so chose. They went ahead and included a whole other set of cards. And again, I find a lot of the artwork is a little bit samey in this deck as well. So I still, even though that is a very nice touch that they included these, I still lean towards the Oink version when it comes to the cards. The other very central component to modern art is, of course, the money itself. And so we've got over here the Oink version, but in this version here, we have metal coins, and there's quite a few metal coins in there, as well as the bag. You get the bag as well. And I have to say, I am not fully content with either one of these options, actually. The money over here in the Oink version, I mean, these are pretty standard components for them. This is the sort of thing they do. And I'm not a big fan of it. They're not... They're boring, largely sort of uninspiring. They are slightly different sizes, so that's nice, but the printing on them, the colors that they decided to go with here, this is just a very uninspiring component in the game. And also, of course, particularly tiny, because they have to be, because the box is so small. Looking at this version, however, the money to me looks rather cheap. It does not, it's metal coins, and I'm sure that they're not inexpensive to produce. That's not what I mean, but they don't look exciting. And the small ones here, the ones look like such a small denomination. They look like something you would find on the street as you are walking by, right? And then even some of the other ones, the flashier ones, the large golden ones here, they just look a little underwhelming. You know, there's not a lot of information on them. There's not a lot of embossing on them. They have the face there, and they've got the numbers and so on, but they sure don't. They're not up there when it comes to the kinds of coins that are printed nowadays for board games. In my opinion, blow these away. You know, I've seen a good amount of coins, and these are probably some of the least inspired ones I've ever seen. I like the idea that they're included. I certainly like having metal coins, but I wish they were a little bit nicer, a little bit, they give you an experience of riches a little bit more than what they do. So I still prefer them to these tokens, certainly, but I'm not fully content with them either. And at this point, the only thing I have not shown you is one particularly ridiculous component that comes in the Dice Tree Games version of the game, and that is this right here. You are going to have a tag that engraved. It's not actually engraved, it is printed on there, but it has the name of the game, a gavel, and that piece so that you can do your auction. And well, it doesn't sound particularly good here. There we go. That's a nice ring to it. This is very solidly, you know, it feels solid. It's very solidly made. They look well constructed, and I love that they put the name of the game right on the gavel there. Gorgeous, gorgeous pieces. Clearly unnecessary, right? Clearly just something to sort of help to add to the mood of what you'll be doing in the game, but it's a very nice touch. If you enjoy the having the elegance and having sort of the immersion of this kind of component, then you'll be happy to have these. You will not pull these out of the box and feel as though they gave you a cheaper version of what you were hoping for. These are fantastic. So that's basically it for the comparison of these two versions of modern art. There are, as I said, pros and cons to both. So which one you go with is not necessarily obvious, right? You will have to consider quite a few things if you're looking to pick up one of these two. But both do what they attempt to do, I think, rather well. So there you go. Thanks for tuning in and checking these out with me. I'm Zee Garcia, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.